Hello, I'm Michael Miller, and I'm a four-year senior in Main Street. Okay. So, Coach AK, president and founder of Empower to Play, is a social entrepreneur, certified strength and conditioning specialist, 2016 Olympic hopeful, educator, and risk taker who has worked with thousands of students and athletes from around the world. Through his travels to over 30 countries, he uses the power of sports to empower and provide opportunities to children and families living in impoverished communities. Through his NGO, Empower to Play, his team has worked with companies such as United Airlines, SM Markets, Buffalo Wild Wings, Unilever, United States Embassy Club, Empowering Brilliant Minds, and Hershey's to provide sports instruction, to unite and provide cross-cultural engagement, educational scholarships, and life skill development to over 600 students living in Quezon City, Philippines. Empower to Play is currently in the process of expanding its efforts into the United States, Haiti, and India. Athletically, as a former D1 two-sport athlete, inspirational award winner, four-time All-American athlete from the University of Oregon, holding university records and top 10 world rankings, he is currently pursuing his dream of competing in the 2016 Olympic Games in Brazil. As an educator, Coach AK served as the Associate Dean of Students at St. Paul's School, as well as the Summer School Diversity and Scholarship Coordinator and intern at Phillips Exeter Academy. While at the St. Paul's School, Coach AK helped lead community building efforts during the controversial trial in 2015. He is currently pursuing career diplomas in sports psychology for peak performance and adolescent development. Coach AK has appeared in advertisements for companies such as Nike, Earbuds, Sony, Women's Health, Fox Sports, and was even a contestant on the Fox hit show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Unfortunately, he didn't get it. As a dynamic and fearless leader, his mission is to make an empathetic and connected world through the power of sports. He believes everyone has the ability to play and make an impact on this world. It's just who are the ones willing to take the risk. Please welcome back founder and president at Empower to Play, Haven's dad, and our colleague, Coach AK.
She has always absent because she has nowhere in going to school, no food to eat because we have no money.
By the end of the next 48 hours, there's going to be 2,500 meals provided, 12 scholarships given, and 300 kids understanding the game of American football. So let's go.
This is our place in the human race, and we won't stop dreaming. No, we won't stop dreaming.
When you talk to these kids, they just want to be lawyers, teachers, normal jobs. They've just never had the opportunity.
There is 10 times the experience of neighborhood here than there is in Princeton, New Jersey, where I live.
Everyone's just running around, smiling, laughing, having a good time.
These kids are like jovial and happy to be out here doing this, and it makes you just appreciate everything.
Next, we have Raylyn Manila.
There's some joy because I'm a single parent.
This is our place in the human race, and we won't stop dreaming. No, we won't stop dreaming. This is our world, and this is our time. And these are our plans. No, we won't stop dreaming. We won't
are you? How are you doing today? Good. It is a bittersweet moment to be back here after 3 years. The last time I was on this stage was 3 years ago, and I was talking about a ripple effect. And it was Esso that sponsored me about the impact or just the influence a coach had on me and how that's led to opportunities for myself and my family and everyone that I meet. At that time that I was there 3 years ago, this didn't exist. At that point, my goal was like, okay, I'm going to go be an administrator in the educational system and see what happens from there. But something that when I come here today, as I speak to everybody in this room, I know some of you guys see me in the dining halls, so this is really what I'm doing a lot of the time. But as I stand here in front of you today, and what some people told me not to do was speak completely off the cuff. There's nothing planned here. My goal here is just to be fully present as I speak to you today. To get outside of your comfort zone isn't easy. It isn't. And I could prepare a speech that I wrote 3 weeks ago and read it behind the podium and tell you can live your dream, you can do anything you want to. But I think the best way to do it is to put myself out in front of you, especially in a place that demands perfection. But I thought about it. And me and Michael were doing some moving this past week. And I said, what is it that the Exeter students need that's going to really inspire them? And I don't remember what he said, to be honest. I'll be honest with that. But what I do remember, though, is that I said, if you could remember anything from what is the speaker that you've enjoyed the most? Because there's so many that come through, but he can't remember one in particular. And I said, at that moment, everything switched. I was like, even in my perfection, I still won't be remembered. So why don't I just come here and be me? And maybe the best thing you need to see is somebody failing. To understand that you can fail and you can still make an impact. You don't have to be perfect. Empower to Play is a group of individuals, no different than myself. Right? We got 2 people here. I'm going to call them out. We got Ryan and Taylor. And then we have a group of literally 40 people all around the world helping move these efforts forward. Three years ago, this all started. 9 months before this I was at Wetherall. And I had this group that I had on campus. It was called the Male Exonian Network. It was called MEN. And we were going to do this leadership task. And everybody that's going to do this leadership task, we believe that when you get into a situation, that you're going to have to get outside of your comfort zone. So what we did is we had all the students do this task. So it says, I want you to lay down on the floor for 10 seconds. Okay, similar to like this. Go into a public place, lay down on the ground for 10 seconds in a public place. And I remember I told them this, and I signed it. It's like, if you're going to do it, I might as well do it too. And sometimes the assigning the task was so much easier than actually doing it. So it was the first day, the very next day, and I got an email from one of the kids saying, I just finished the task. And so for me, I was like, okay, it's going to be an easy task. So the very next day, I went and I was sitting in Wetherall. And I was like, okay, this is my time, I'm going to do it. And there was 2 things that you had to do. The first one is, if you're going to get up there, you couldn't say why you did it. Okay? You couldn't say why you laid on the ground, because that's just putting you back inside your comfort zone. The second one is you couldn't do it around anybody else in the room. So when the first person did it, they went up, they did it. And now it was my turn to do it. So I was sitting there, and I stood up, and I sat back down. And I'm like, whew, that's a little nerve-wracking. And at that moment, these thoughts started coming into my mind. I'm like, what would happen if I lay down on the ground? Principal Hassan's going to come in. He's going to say, what are you doing? I'm going to get fired on the spot. Right? And then the next thing I thought about, if I lay down on the ground for 10 seconds, someone's going to think I'm having a heart attack, call 911, the ambulance is going to get there, and this is all going to be havoc. So I didn't do it that first day, I admit. So it was the very next day in Weatherall again, and I was sitting just getting pumped up, ready, like I'm about to do this, I'm about to do this. And then all of a sudden, I was with my wife, Toyin, and she was like, just shut up and do it. Very simple. And at that moment, I literally just sat up, I walked over to the center, I plopped down, and I lay down on the ground. At that moment, the room went silent. Went silent, okay? And I was laying down, and I was just counting, like 1, 2, 3. Heart was beating, it was pumping. And then I get to 10, and then someone reaches over to me and says, hey, do you want some flowers? Right? They thought I was like playing dead or something. So, so I get up, and all of a sudden when the time stops, I get up and I'm looking, and the noise comes back. And I look around the room, and I notice that nothing changed. People kept on eating. Like nobody cared. Like nobody cared. And at that moment, I got angry. I got really angry. And most people would have been like, why would you get angry? I'd have been like, whew. Nobody saw it. But it was at that moment that I realized, like, how many opportunities didn't I take advantage of because of fear? How many situations in my life did I didn't make that move because of fear, because I imagined the worst case scenario? And I said, never again am I going to let fear stop me. So when I look at each and every one of you, I'm going to say the hardest thing about preparing for this talk today, right, especially with the work that I do, I'm going to talk about that momentarily, is I go into under-resourced communities and I use sports as a tool. I'm living in 10 by 10 houses with families that live on $1 a day. 8 kids in one house, sleeping on a cement floor. And the hardest thing isn't that. The hardest thing that I have to deal with is coming back to the United States. Because in those communities, they don't care what I wear. I can literally wear the same shirt every single day, and nobody cares. They judge you solely based on who you are. So when I came back, I remember I was doing a radio interview. And I was just thinking about, am I going to wear the red shirt or am I going to wear the blue shirt? Or if I wear this red shirt, this is what this person's going to think about me. If I wear the blue shirt or red shirt, this is what this person's going to think about me. And I realized you never know how much you're controlled by the outside world until you step away. So why am I faking it? You know, so here, I don't need to wear this, right? You know what I do. This is the Magic Mike show, okay? But like, let's just think about it, right? Because I decided to wear a suit, does that take away from the impact? Does that take away the cause? Sometimes we feel like this suit, or what school we got into, or the friend group we're in defines who we are because of security. But in reality, we're just adding layers and layers and layers of insecurity. It's okay. I apologize. I do apologize. And that's what you realize. Like, how much of it is this fake shell that we walk around in? Believing that because what we wear, what school we get into, defines who we are and if we're successful. I'm going to tell you right now, the biggest thing that stops See, most of you probably thought I forgot what I was about to say. See, the biggest thing that stops any of us is that was only 15 seconds. That voice in your head that said, did he forget what he was going to say? What's he doing? Is he taking a risk? Did he fail? See, the biggest enemy in our whole entire lives is that inner chatter that goes in our mind that says we're not good enough, that we're not strong enough. You know, only if I get into this particular school, then maybe I can make an impact. Or maybe if I just try out for this team, then maybe this person will like me. See, all that is just our inner chatter. And I'm going to tell you the purpose of life. I'm going to give you a nugget right now. The purpose of life is to remove that chatter out of our minds. Because the point you're able to remove that chatter, anything in the world is possible. You don't need to wait. See, this organization started, I was an intern in the Multicultural Affairs office making $25,000 a year. I'm not a millionaire. And he read something earlier about me training for the Olympics. I'm going to say this right now in front of anybody. I'm not training for the Olympics anymore. And the reason why is because I always felt that I needed to become an Olympian to make an impact. I felt like I needed some type of stage to make an impact. I don't. I want you guys to think about that, right? So ideally, as we talk about the work that I do, what we do is I go into under-resourced communities and I use sports as a tool to bring communities together. Now, whether or not you're a professional athlete or you're a kid living in a shanty town, we introduce unfamiliar sports, and we have within this sports camp communities working together. It doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete, a kid living in a shanty town, you all have a task to make sure this event is successful. Second of all, we use a term called the Pareto's principle. Has anybody heard of this? The 80-20 rule? Right? Meaning that 20% of your output or input produces 80% of your results. Okay? That probably means that while you're doing work, 20% of the work that you're doing throughout the day is producing 80% of your results for the day. So you probably feel like I'm on Facebook for 80% of the time. It's producing 20% of your output. Okay? So ideally what we're trying to do is we're trying to identify these high-achieving students in communities. These kids that no control what country they were born in, who their parents were, or what type of resources they had when they were growing up. They just had much of an opportunity or chance to grow up in the shanty towns in the Philippines or Haiti, or us growing up in these types of environments. But just because of that doesn't mean that these kids couldn't make an impact on the world. So that's what we're trying to identify through sports, through introducing unfamiliar sports into these communities. And then what we also have them get into groups of what they want to be when they grow up. So you have groups of doctors, of lawyers, of teachers. And so when we give them these educational scholarships, and we provide them all the way up until the professional age, and they come back into the community, they become the best doctors, the best lawyers, the best teachers. Right? And this all started from a simple ticket. 3 years ago, I never had the idea of making this into an NGO or a nonprofit. I didn't. And we even have Will here that's here on the beginning stage of that. And what happened was, through this impact of these kids, they've completely changed my life. And now we have a team of individuals, of people from all over the world that are just regular human beings that are working together to make this world a better place. Through sports, through content writing to share these kids' stories, through accountants, making sure that we stay legal. Like everybody here works together. So as I look at every single one of you today, yes, Exeter is an amazing place. I love this place. But at the same time, don't let it define you. You are amazing individuals, not because you went to Exeter. You're amazing individuals because you are amazing individuals. Okay? And you guys hear that enough. Oh, Exeter, you guys are going to be future leaders of the world. You probably hear that enough. Like, how am I going to be future leaders of the world and I just got cut from the basketball team? How am I going to be the future leader of the world and I just failed this math test? How am I going to be the future leaders of the world and this person is a fantastic mathematician? I thought I was good until I got here. You know what? You are still good. And the point you start measuring yourself up to somebody else, you don't realize if you remove that chatter. If you remove that chatter, the possibilities that you can achieve is limitless. Be the best that you can be, not to follow the path of somebody else. Okay? So right now, I actually want to provide some of you an opportunity.
It was 3rd and 20 with seconds left.
And it was me and my defender, and I had to stay focused.
But only one of us was going to come out on top, and I wasn't going to quit.
This is the day I've been waiting for. I am resilient.
Dedicated to my craft.
Every day, staying disciplined, because I knew my day would come.
Getting ready and being a leader on and off the field.
Giving back through the sport we love.
Who knew what we do every day could unite the world?
So for me, it's one final story is, like I said multiple times, each and every one of you can make an impact on this room, in this world. And I'm not talking to students. I'm talking to everybody. A few years ago, or actually a lot of years ago, I was in college, and I decided to go skydiving. And at that time, I was like really excited, and if you know me, I don't really show that much emotions, and I'm gonna be tough. And when I was going there, we had two options, right? We could either go tandem, or we could go or individually. So tandem means you have to go with somebody else on your back. And for me, I was like, you know what? I would do it, but I'm a poor college student, so I'm just going to go tandem instead of individually. So what I did is, it was me and my girlfriend at the time, and we end up getting on the plane. So we're traveling, we get up to the elevation, and they say there's two things that you need to think about. Two things. And the first one was, as soon as the door opens, I want you to scoot out to the edge. And then the second one is that when you actually jump out of the plane, I want you to put your arms out like a bird. Okay? So we get up to the elevation, and then my girlfriend at the time goes first. So they open the door, they're like, 1, 2, 3, whee! She's out. And I'm like, okay, cool, that seems easy. So it's up to me now. And they say, are you ready? I'm like, yes, I am ready. So they said, okay, scoot up to the edge. So I go, and I scoot up to the edge, and I'm feeling pretty good. And then all of a sudden, the door swings open, and my heart starts pumping. Right? I'm looking between my legs. I'm thousands of feet above the ground. My heart's racing. And then all of a sudden, he's like, 3, 2, 1. And I'm like, Ish! I freeze up. And I'm like, no, not right now. Not right now. Wait one second. And I'm like, I don't know what happened. Because beforehand, I took the class. I understood what I needed to do. And then now this was real, like standing on the stage right here. And he was like, what was wrong? I was like, nothing. I didn't hear the number count. I didn't know if you were going on like 3 and then go, or just like 1, 2, 3. I apologize. So we go again. He starts counting down again. And he's like, 3, 2, 1. And this time I freeze up, but he's just like, he pushes me out the door, right? So I am literally coming through the air. I feel like I'm doing this, right? Like flying through the air. But in reality, this is what was happening. Yeah! I am screaming. And once again, at that moment, I realized this. I knew more about skydiving in that 10 seconds than I could have in a class that I took in for weeks. See, sometimes it's about removing that inner chatter. It's just simply just taking that leap. And I admit, sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes some days, every single day, we have an opportunity of whether we want to get on the plane or whether we want to jump. And I admit it. Sometimes I don't feel like jumping and taking that risk. Some days I feel like sitting at home, watching YouTube videos. I've been listening to some Bieber songs recently. And you can hate on, I just say this, you can hate on Bieber. I didn't like him beforehand, but his new stuff is getting better. Just admit it. Okay. Right? And usually this happens through you thinking, oh my goodness, that's that Usher jam. And then you Shazam it, and it's Bieber, and like, oh, you got me again. Right? But like I said, we have that opportunity every single day to make that leap. Right here is an hourglass. This is our lives. Right here. Every single one of us, we only have one of these. And every single second, a sand is dropping. It doesn't matter if we are saving the world or watching YouTube videos. Every single day, this is the only one that we have. But in reality, this is really our hourglass. We don't know how much sand is left. But sometimes we feel like it's always full. I'm going to apply to this school tomorrow. Or I'm going to save the world tomorrow. I'm going to make that phone call tomorrow. But heck, we're not guaranteed 20 minutes. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. You got one chance to make an impact, to build relationships, to connect with everybody in this room, to embrace this moment, because that's the only thing that we have control over. Don't let the last sand fall without making an impact.
Sometimes it's not easy to see the finish line, to peer down that long, treacherous road ahead and feel completely confident that things will work out. That success is waiting there for you in one form or another. Obviously, there's no road signs letting you know that your progress is paying off. There's no blatant indicator that you're on the right track. Essentially, there's nothing. Right? Nothing but the feet underneath you, taking you one step at a time to a fate that's completely unknown. And it's in this instance, while looking destiny in the eye, that you have to remember, anyone can sail in smooth waters, anyone can dance when the music is playing. The great leveler, though, is how you live when it's not. When you're listening like your life depended on it, but there's no song to be heard. How do you push forward? No one else can get you there. There's no shortcut to success. You'll find that the answer's in your chest. Because it's there you'll find the melody that's been pumping through your veins since the first day you opened your eyes. Helping you create your own music, your own song, your own voice. It's what has the power to get you through to the next level. When your instinct tells you to quit, that maybe it's just not worth it. When most give up, it's why you'll be able to hang on. Because the song will come. The skies will clear, the sun will rise. But you have to know that, and you have to know it now, when all you have is ambition and a plan, when it's just you, your song, and the road ahead. There's no concrete evidential triumph, but you don't need that. Persistence during times of doubt, during improbability, that's what makes triumph so rare, so precious. It moves the strong-willed forward to bigger and better things. Things aren't handed to you, but they materialize over time. They transform from nothing to something. They emerge from hardship, out of ideas that were perceived by others as crazy, as most achievements throughout the course of human history were. Let people talk about odds, how difficult success is. They can't look inside of you. They can't hear your song. They don't know what you have. But they will find out later, when you've gotten past the mud, the dirt, the grind, the stuff that no one wants to endure. When you're singing your song to the world, for yourself, but also for them, for those who need it, those seeking their own song. One day you'll be able to tell them what it took, how it wasn't easy, but you knew that if you pushed hard enough, the stars would align. You heard the music before it played, and how sweet the sound.
So for those who would like to learn more about Empower to Play or just have a conversation with Coach AK, he'll be in the Latin study today at 12:50 for lunch. Senior class.